Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my lovelies. Welcome to a lore review. This lore review will be about a game you may not have heard of. That game is Project Zomboid by the indie developers The Indie Stone and initially released on November 8th, 2013. It's begun gaining recent popularity, so I decided why not talk about it. Project Zomboid is an indie survival game in the polygonal style of the first Sims game. You can take control of your own character, you give them traits, good or bad, customize their look, clothes, hair, color of their skin, doesn't matter. You start off in a home in Knox County, Kentucky, as that is where this game takes place. Knox County is now overrun with zombies, so as you scrounge for supplies such as food, water, weapons, and other necessities, you have to fight off hordes of zombies. Now, that doesn't sound like too much, does it? However, there's an entire wiki of the game. Mind you, this game is still being updated to this day, currently on build 41.5. 41.5 has added a bunch of new things to the game since its first release. And now, we shall discuss the lore of Project Zomboid. As you start the game, you see a black screen with white text saying, "These are the end times. There was no hope of survival. This is how you died." Giving you that everlasting sense of dread that your first character may not make it through your first week. In fact, many new players often make a lot of mistakes throughout their playthrough that ends up getting them killed. Surviving your first week, especially for newer players, can be difficult, to say the least. However, with good coordination, and perhaps some guidance from people on YouTube, you can survive for as long as you wish. In fact, one YouTuber even survived 1,000 days in Project Zomboid. 1,000 in-game days. That is 3 years. 3 years in-game. It may not sound like a lot, but you play through every day of the game. You start off in a home in one of the few towns that you can spawn in, those being Muldraugh, West Point, Riverside, or Rosewood. All of these 4 cities are filled with zombies and loot. However, others that you can't spawn in are even more loot-packed, but even more zombie-filled. Such as the best town for looting, Louisville, Kentucky. Louisville is a beautiful city. It has a baseball field, has the in-game business headquarters, and a giant mall that is a reference to the Mall of America called the Great Ohio Mall, even though this takes place in Kentucky. It is alongside the Ohio River, however. I believe that is why it is called such. You do not go to Louisville as a new player. Do not. I'm telling you now, do not go to Louisville. You will die. There are thousands upon thousands of zombies. In fact, one YouTuber I have seen played through the entire game trying to kill every single zombie in the first 4 starting towns that I have listed prior. And he did it. He went through all of the towns and murdered every single zombie in each town. Which is fascinating to me, but also not something you could do first try. However, today we are not going to be talking about gameplay. We are going to be talking about the lore of the series itself. Well, not series, but you get what I mean. The game doesn't have a story, per se. It has lore, but not really a story. The story is one that you set for yourselves, like games such as Minecraft. You make your own story. However, there is a small bit of lore when you start off in the game. Now, I'm going to be discussing with you the different pieces of lore for this game, as stated on the Project Zomboid Wiki. pzwiki.net if you are curious. I will leave a link in the description. Now, let's get started with the first bit of lore. Let's start off with something simple. The Knox Event. Since this game takes place in Knox County, Kentucky, we are going to be talking about the Knox Event first. The Knox Event is used to refer to the zombie outbreak that occurs prior to and throughout the game. The event first takes place around Muldraugh and West Point, Kentucky. The incident is considered to have begun on the 4th of July, 1993. This game takes place in the past. American Independence Day. Just 2 days later, the military evacuated residents from around the affected areas and set up blockades in what is now known as the Knox Evacuation. The area affected is given the name the Exclusion Zone, with the primary camp being south of Louisville, Kentucky. That is a direct quote from the Wiki itself. Now, I'm going to be talking to you about the timeline of the Knox Event. We will be going in order of how it is listed on the Wiki. So, weeks prior to the event, a foul smell in the air is first noticed. July 1st, 1993, 8 days before you start as the player. Knox Telecommunications take phone lines down for maintenance. July 4th, American Independence Day. Since this all takes place in the same year, I shall just say the date and the days before and after you start. July 6th, 3 days before the player starts. The Knox Evacuation. Military blockades set up around the border, displacing those from the outer perimeter. July 9th. The first day for the player. The game begins 3 days after the Knox Evacuation. The first official statement given during a press conference by General John McGrew, 11 a.m. on the 9th of July. July 11th, day 2 for the player. The WHO, or WHO, ground all non-military or medical internal and international flights after 6 p.m. EST. People begin looting and rioting within many major cities. Peacekeeping forces stationed throughout the nation. Fort Knox military base is abandoned. Quarantine cells unlocked and the soldiers are gone. Unknown to the public until July 13th. July 12th, day 3 for the player. The Knox exclusion zone is widened. Public anger leads to riots resulting in fatalities in New York and injuries in Miami. The president announces a 6 p.m. curfew in New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. One picture from West Point, Kentucky is leaked from inside the exclusion zone. The image of a man looked to be around age 30 with blood around his mouth Bloodstained clothes, one arm raised, with the other hanging on by a thread or completely unattached, unconcerned by his injuries, and walking in a street full of corpses. On the night of July 12th, on Knox Talk, it is revealed that this man worked at a place called the Starplex, and the caller on the radio says he took her son to see the Spiffos movie a week ago. The caller does not reveal his name because the man's family could be watching Knox Talk in that moment. Amateur radio broadcasts received from inside the exclusion zone at a frequency of 107.6 megahertz. Megahertz is what is used to hear sounds on radios. July 13th, day 4 for the player. Interference from an unknown source impacts radio broadcast. The infection is confirmed to spread through fluid exchange. Civilians from within the exclusion zone who are held in quarantine at a military base within the zone by McGrew's men, by order of General McGrew, most likely Fort Knox because the secret Rosewood base has no cells, were able to go out and see their family members, some of whom were taken by the military for examinations, and they revealed their stories and scenes already seen by of the photo inside the exclusion zone on the 12th of July, and things are leaked from inside the zone, and that everyone inside the zone caught the Knox infection. July 14th, day 5 for the player. Early in the morning, within the primary exclusion zone camp south of Louisville, a soldier opens fire, killing 2 unarmed people. Angry protesters were dispersed with warning shots and tear gas. Sounds like a protest. July 15th, day 6 for the player. People beyond the exclusion zone begin showing symptoms of infection without fluid contact. How strange. July 16th, day 7 for the player. Key bridges and river crossings over the Ohio River are blocked and demolished by the military in an attempt to contain the outbreak. July 17th, 8th day for the player. The Knox Event infection is confirmed in Louisville, in the surrounding area, Cincinnati, and Columbus, Norfolk, London, Newcastle, Mogadishu, Seoul, and Okinawa. Cause of the sudden spread is unknown in this time. The military starts distributing General John McGrew's final message describing the true nature of the Knox Event. Day 18, day 9 for the player. July 18th, day 9 for the player. The Knox Event is confirmed in New Orleans, Los Angeles, Berlin, and Tokyo. That is the entire timeline listed on the Wiki. Now we shall discuss the rumored outbreak causes. A bad smell had been in the air for weeks before the blockade went up. Many believe that's how you get sick. Once it gets in your lungs, you're done. You can smell it in the air. Something smelled bad for weeks. It gets into your lungs. That's what's behind it. From a caller named Christian on Knox Talk. Many people believe that it's the Spiffos meat as the cause of the outbreak, the next evolutionary step for mad cow disease. Spiffos is basically like the McDonald's of this universe. It's got a cute mascot, and it sells burgers. I've been warning people for years. It's in the meat. We've been feeding our cows on their own kind. Misfolded poison, prions. Brain matter fed back into the food chain. These prions have been building up in countless generations of cattle. This is clearly a neurological disorder. Professor Peter Ensley. Religious folks tend to believe that man is paying for their sins, and this is the work of God. The end is at hand. America has sinned. America has sinned. Every day I look to our streets, and I see the depravity and wickedness. A nation tainted by perverts and sinners. Pastor Samuels. A man named Ethan is called in. How are you, Ethan? You think it matters how I am? How about the poor souls behind the event line? Well, of course, this is judgment. This is God. That's certainly a point of, let me finish. This is foretold. Jesus is coming home. Everyone is listening. Everyone listening. You get on your knees and repent. He knows your sins, and he's a-comin'. No, in fact, he's already here, and you are judged. You know what it says in the book of Revelations. I do. Okay, on to the next caller. The great day of his wrath is come, and who shall be able to stand? Okay, thank you. From a caller from Knox Talk. The outbreak occurring so close to Independence Day can't be a coincidence. It must be terrorism. Terrorism. Terrorism is my point. They've been coming for us for years. This is their moment. Francine, as a caller on Knox Talk. Interesting information. Canines may exhibit symptoms. A bar owner in West Point mentions that his dog was sick when he was leaving West Point, Kentucky. We've got someone with something new. Twiggy, you there? Twiggy is a bar. Twiggy's is a wonderful place to find bourbon, beer, red wine, and white wine. In-game. Twiggy, you there? Sure am. Figured you'd want to hear from someone from inside. I live in West Point, own a bar. I went away to visit a cousin, but the night before, weird stuff. Helicopters flying low over us to Muldraw. We get that stuff. We're an army town. Serve those boys most nights. Just seems out of place. Next day I'm coming back, it's no go. Thanking God I had my wife and dog with me, I guess. Else I wouldn't be seeing them for weeks. Dog's been sick, so I'm glad she's with me. I don't know how long this dang thing will take. Do you know? I'm afraid not. Thanks for your call. That is from Twiggy, as a caller on Knox Talk. Okay, folks, a lot of voice on our lines, as you'd imagine, but Danielle's got a story to tell. You got the mic, Danielle. They're lying. They're lying to us. We were on the inside. My mom, she was attacked. This guy bit her. We tried to get out, but they took her. I don't know where she is. They took my dog out of the car, and I just ran. They shot my dog. What kind of soldiers do that? And I'm sit here in this camp in some guy's car phone. The others, they wanted me to get word out. People in there have changed. They try to kill you. All of them try to kill you. Danielle, as a caller on Knox Talk. A caretaker from inside the exclusion zone mentions that a security dog was sick and taken into one of the labs within inside the exclusion zone. What is your job, mysterious caller? I am a janitor. I signed so many forms that I know this ain't right. But there's labs in there, guys with white coats. And they're experimenting on what? Biological stuff? I don't know. Do they test on anything? Animals? Saw some dogs on my last day before this all started. They test on dogs? Nah, security guy dog was sick. So what you're saying is they have science stuff in the military installation. Could be weapons, could be freshman chemistry class. And a guy owned a dog? Yes, sir. That's the measure of it. Could be anything. It's terrorism. Thanks for your call. If anyone actually knows some facts about the event, call me. Sick of time wasters. From a janitor on Knox Talk. A man mentions that the military took his dog for no reason. This is the triple N, flu-like, panic, confusion. An unknown communicable illness that has cut through Kentucky communities, forcing evacuations, and the creation of a huge event. Yet still, no concrete word on what the Knox Event is, or how it spreads. Worse, revelations from Dr. Jack Galbraith, a former scientist within the CDC. He reported as saying, America is not ready for this. We have not been ready for a long time. How does that sound to you on the ground at event boundary, Christy McCormick? Well, Joan, it's exactly what sort of rumor that's not helping. People just don't know what to do, and the military don't know what to do with them. Some have been taken to Louisville, but most, They want to stay in tents in local buildings. This is their home, or at least as near to their homes as the army will allow them, and they're angry. Real angry. They're not telling us nothing. Every day like the last. I got a business in there in West Point. I've got a home, a family. I've got a dog too, and they took it for no reason at all. We want answers. This is Christy McCormick on the Knox Event line. Back to the studio. Thank you, Christy. Now coming up, the scientist that says it is contained. Christy Cormick on Triple N. Now, that is just one page of the lore of this series. There is much more. We still have the radio broadcast, the infection itself, TV broadcast. But I believe I have to leave you here. This video is already 21 minutes long. So, if you wish to see more of this in the future, please comment down below whether you'd want to see this in the future. Peace out, everyone. And remember, have a damn good day.